So, you're thinking about bringing a bird into your life? That's an amazing thought. But it's a huge decision, one that's going to change your life. Today, we're going to walk through how to find the perfect feathered companion responsibly so that it's a happy life for both of you.
You know the vision, right? This gorgeous, smart bird, maybe it talks to you, cuddles up on your shoulder. And look, that can absolutely be part of it, but you gotta know that's just one tiny piece of a really big, complex puzzle.
All right, here's what we're going to cover. We'll kick things off with the dream versus the reality. Then we're going to debunk a really dangerous myth. After that, we'll get practical and look at birds that fit quieter or busier lifestyles. Then we'll cover the absolute non-negotiables of care, and we'll wrap up with maybe the most important question you can ask yourself.
All right, first things first, let's get real about what having a bird is actually like, day in and day out.
Yeah, we dream of this perfect little buddy. But the reality, birds aren't decorations. They are incredibly intelligent, and that means they can be loud and messy. Oh, they are messy. We're talking food, feathers, you name it. And that beak, it's literally made for chewing, which means, yeah, your house needs to be bird-proofed, big time. And this is probably the biggest reality check of all, the commitment. I mean, we're not talking about a couple of years here. A little budgie can live for 15 years, a cockatiel, 25. And then you get to the bigger parrots like Amazons and macaws, we're talking 60 to 80 years, maybe even more. Think about that. That's a commitment that could outlast your mortgage.
Okay, this leads us to something super, super important. We absolutely have to talk about one of the most persistent and dangerous myths floating around out there in the pet world. This whole idea of a starter bird.
This quote from a Reddit user on the parrot subreddit, it just hits the nail on the head. All birds are demanding unless you're neglecting them. This whole idea that you can practice on one living being to get ready for the one you really want, it's just completely wrong. Every single bird is a full-time job.
So what are people even talking about when they say starter bird? It's this idea that, a smaller, cheaper bird like a budgie is somehow easier, like they're training wheels for owning a real, bigger parrot. But that way of thinking totally misses the point of what a bird actually needs to be happy.
So let me be absolutely crystal clear. There is no such thing as a starter bird, period. Full stop. Let's just remove that phrase from our vocabulary right now, okay?
So why is this whole idea so harmful? Because here's the thing. A bird's needs have nothing to do with its size. A tiny little budgie has a brain just as complex and emotional needs just as deep as a huge macaw. And here's the real scary part. With smaller birds, neglect is just harder to see. They can't scream as loud or bite as hard when they're unhappy, which means their suffering can go totally unnoticed. Okay, so now that we've thrown the whole starter bird idea out the window, let's reframe this. Instead, let's talk about matching a bird's personality to your lifestyle. Like, for instance, what if you live in an apartment? So if you've got thin walls or sensitive neighbors, noise is probably a big deal. In that case, finches and canaries are fantastic options. They're what we'd call hands-off. They'd rather hang out with other birds than be handled, and their sounds are just these lovely, quiet chirps and songs. And if you want something a little more interactive but still on the quiet side, a Burke's parakeet could be a perfect fit. They're super mellow but can form really close bonds. Okay, next scenario. What if you're a busy person? You're not home 24/7. A super demanding bird like a cockatoo is probably not the right choice. But that doesn't mean you can't have a bird at all. It just means you need to find a bird that's good at keeping itself busy as long as you give it quality time when you are home. And this brings us to the super popular budgie. They are a perfect example. If you give them a big cage with lots of toys, a budgie can be perfectly happy while you're at work. But, and this is a big but, they absolutely need a few hours of dedicated social time with you every single day. The key thing to remember is they are not decorations. They're basically tiny, brilliant social parrots packed into a little body. And even when you're looking at similar birds, personality is everything. A budgie, think high energy, chatty, playful. They'd rather chatter with you than get a pet. A cockatiel, usually a bit more low-key, more into cuddles and whistling a tune. They often love a good head scratch. See? It's not about easy versus hard. It's about what personality meshes with yours.
Okay, so regardless of what kind of bird you're thinking about, there are some absolute non-negotiables. These are the fundamentals that apply to every single bird. First up, diet. And this is so important. An all-seed diet, it's basically like a person living on nothing but junk food. It's super fatty and causes all kinds of health problems. The foundation of their diet, like 70%, should be special formulated pellets. Then you add in healthy veggies and save seeds for a small treat. And just so you know, some of our foods are straight up poison for them. So no avocado, no chocolate, no caffeine, no alcohol, ever. You have to understand, a bird's respiratory system is incredibly fragile. Things we use every day without a second thought can literally be fatal to them. Fumes from nonstick pans, they get too hot, aerosol sprays like air fresheners or perfume, scented candles, strong cleaners, all of it can be toxic. You basically have to create a safe fume-free zone for them to live in. And finally, let's talk about enrichment. That's just a fancy word for keeping their super smart brains busy and happy. First, the cage. Think of it as their bedroom, not a prison, so get the absolute biggest one you can afford and fit in your space. Fill it with lots of different toys that let them shred and forage. And the biggest one, they need hours, plural, of safe, supervised time out of their cage every single day.
Okay, we've gone through a ton of information, but it all boils down to this one last, really crucial question. So far, we've been asking, how do I find the right bird for me? Now it's time to flip that script. Just look at that number, 60 years. That's how long an Amazon parrot can live. This isn't like getting a hamster. This is adding a family member who could be with you for most of your adult life, a commitment that can last longer than raising a child. It's profound.
So, before you go any further, I want you to run through this checklist and be really honest with yourself. Financially, can you afford it? Not just the bird, but the giant cage, the fresh food, the unexpected vet bills. Do you really have several hours a day to give them? Is your home safe? Can you handle the noise? And are you ready for the mess and for your stuff to get chewed on?
And that's really what it all comes down to. It's not about finding the perfect feathered accessory to fit into your world. It's about asking, are you the right person to provide a loving, stable, and stimulating forever home for one of these incredible animals? And honestly, that's the only question that really matters.